Hello, welcome to Anita the Pedagogue channel. Today, we want to continue with our literature and English lessons. We want to discuss the poem Away Melancholy, written by poet Stevie Smith. Now, we will be discussing the biography of the poets. The title, the structure of the poem is line-by-line analysis or stanza-by-stanza analysis. We will look at the literary devices, the themes, and I'll share with you some likely examination questions. Let's begin with a biography of Stevie Smith. Born Florence Margaret Smith on September 20, 1902, in Yorkshire, England, experienced an early life marked by family upheaval. Her father left to serve in the North Sea Patrol, and her mother passed away when Smith was a teenager, leaving her and her sister to be raised by their aunts known as the Lime. Smith attended North London Collegiate School for girls and later worked as a secretary, where she began writing poetry in her 20s. Her literary career took off with the publication of Novel on Yellow Paper in 1936, which reflected her personal experiences and wartime England. Her poetry collection, A Good Time Was Had by All, published in 1937, introduced her signature blend of serious themes with playful nursery rhyme structures, often accompanied by doodles. Known for her unique style, Smith's work explored themes of death, religion, and irony, drawing inspiration from theology, the Brothers Grimm, and poets like Tennyson and Browning. Recognized for her contributions to poetry, Smith received the Chumley Award in 1966 and the Queen's Gold Medal for Poetry in 1969. She passed away on March 7, 1971, due to a brain tumor, leaving behind a legacy of distinctive and influential poetry. I'd like us to move on now to the structure of the poem. Let's recite the poem Away Melancholy by Stevie Smith. Away melancholy, away with it, let it go. Are not the trees green, the earth as green? Does not the wind blow, fire leap, and the river flow? Away melancholy. The ant is busy, he carrieth his meat, all things hurry, to be eaten or eat. Away melancholy. Man too hurries, eats, couples, berries. He is an animal also, with a hey-ho melancholy. Away with it, let it go. Man of all creatures is superlative. Away melancholy. He of all creatures alone raiseth the stone. Away melancholy. Into the stone the God pours what he knows of good, calling good God. Away melancholy, let it go. Speak not to me of tears, tyranny, pox, wars, saying, can God, stone of man's thought, be good? Say rather, it is enough that the staff stone of man's good, growing by man's called God. Away melancholy, let it go. Man aspires to good, to love, sighs. Beaten, corrupted, dying in his own bloodline, yet heaves up an eye above, cries, love, love. It is his virtue needs explaining, not his failing. Away melancholy, away with it, let it go. Now, if we look at this poem, looking at its structure, it's a nice stanza poem with 48 lines. The stanzas have uneven lines and stanza lengths. For example, the first stanza has 2 lines, and so is the last stanza. It does not have a specific rhyme scheme, even though if you observe, you will see some end rhymes. We have blow and flow, meet and eat, hurries, berries. These are end rhymes, but the poem in itself, when you look at it critically, does not have a very regular pattern. Again, it has been observed that the poem has the refrain, away melancholy, away melancholy, away with it, let it go. And this refrain, which is repeated at various points in the stanzas, contains the use of imperatives or action words. Away, let it go. So these are the action or imperatives. And this sets the tone of the poem as it is like a call to action to move away from sadness. The tone also shows a very strong desire to move away from sadness, and this creates a mood of sorrow and a desire to be free of sadness, especially for readers. Now I want us to go on and look at the title, Away Melancholy. Now melancholy is an intense feeling of sadness which lasts for a long time and which strongly affects your behavior and attitudes. The action verb away suggests the speaker in the poem wants any iota of sadness, depression, and worry away from hers or her life. Now let's look at the summary and analysis. Let's look at an analysis of the first and the second stanza. The poem begins with a direct address to melancholy, establishing a tone of rejection and urgency with the phrases away melancholy and let it go. This repetition emphasizes the speaker's desire to rid themselves of sadness. The use of rhetorical questions, are not the trees green, the earth as green, employs imagery of nature to contrast with the feelings of hopelessness. The vivid descriptions of the wind, fire, and river create a sense of liveliness and movement, suggesting that life continues despite personal sorrow. Just like how this nature, wind, fire, and river, some have their negative effects, but they come anyway. Now, the refrain away melancholy reinforces the theme of the struggle against despair, sadness, encouraging a focus on the beauty of the natural world instead of sorrow. The focus shifts to the industriousness of nature, particularly the ant. The phrase "the ant is busy, he carrieth his meat" highlights the theme of diligence, hard work in the natural world. This visual imagery evokes a sense of purpose and activity, contrasting the speaker's melancholy with the ant's productiveness. The line "all things hurry, to be eaten or eat" introduces a cycle of life and death, emphasizing the interconnectedness of all creatures. The repeated command away melancholy serves as a reminder to embrace the present and acknowledge the hustle and bustle of life around us, further illustrating the theme of overcoming sadness as the world is always going to be busy. The focus shifts to humanity in stanza 4. Man too hurries, eats, couples, berries. Here, Smith acknowledges the animalistic qualities of humans, such as feeding, reproducing, companionship, death, but also highlights their complexities, which is the experience of melancholy. The phrase "with a hey-ho melancholy" suggests a recognition of sadness as a part of life, yet the repetition of away melancholy indicates a desire to rise above the state. This stanza summarizes the duality of human experience. While we are driven by biology, we also possess the capacity for higher thoughts and emotion, and I would say that is the reason why we get depressed or feel sad compared maybe to other creatures. In stanza 5, a more philosophical perspective is presented. Man of all creatures is superlative. This assertion elevates humanity, suggesting that despite our duality and likeness to animals, we have the unique ability to reflect on our existence. The imagery of raising a stone symbolizes the burden of knowledge and responsibility that comes with being human. It also suggests man's capability of invention. The line "into the stone the god pours what he knows of good" implies that humans have the potential to understand and pursue goodness, despite their struggles with melancholy. It can also imply that God is the source of man's acts. He is the creator of man. In this stanza, Smith confronts the darker aspects of life. "Speak not to me of tears, tyranny, pox, wars." This declaration emphasizes the speaker's desire to avoid negativity and despair. The rhetorical question, "Can God, stone of man's thought, be good?" challenges the reader to consider the nature of God and goodness in a flawed world. Instead of lingering on suffering, the poet advocates for a focus on the growth of the staffed stone of man's good, suggesting that even amidst hardship, there exists the potential for improvement and understanding. Smith also highlights God or divinity as an influence of man. This stanza also emphasizes the need to let go of melancholy. The theme of aspiration is emphasized by Smith in stanza 7. Man aspires to good, to love. Again, in the 8th stanza, Smith acknowledges the struggles inherent in this pursuit, that is beaten, corrupted, dying. Yet the speaker's ability to heave up an eye above and cry for love suggests hope and resilience. The concluding lines reinforce the idea that understanding one's virtues rather than focusing on failures is essential for personal growth. As in the lines, it is his virtue needs explaining, not his failing. We should rather focus on one's virtues and not on what one is unable to do. This is a remarkable part of the poem where Smith admits the causes for melancholy, yet encourages readers to be optimistic while upholding positive morals or virtues. In the 9th stanza, the repetition of away melancholy, away with it, let it go, serves as a powerful conclusion and refrain throughout the poem, reiterating the key message of the poem. Smith uses this refrain through the action words away, let it go to urge readers to relinquish their despair and embrace the possibility of love and goodness above their failures and sorrows. Let us move on to the language and style of Away Melancholy by Stevie Smith. There's been the use of repetition or refrain, which is away melancholy, away with it, let it go. Also in line 44, we see the repetition of love. There's also the use of imagery. Are not the trees green? The earth has green. Does not the wind blow? Fire leap and the river flow. So there's a combination of some visual imagery, and also we can talk about field imagery for wind blow, and with fire leap and the river flow. Yes, we can also allude that to sight imagery and field imagery. Again, away melancholy, let it go can also be described as an anaphora, that is the repetition of words or phrases at the beginning of clauses or sentences. And here it is to create rhythm, elicit emotions, and encourage audience participation, because we see it's like a kind of a chorus, that is a refrain. And here we can describe it also as anaphora. The tone of this poem shows aggression to move away from sadness, and the mood it creates for the reader is sorrow and a desire to be free of sadness. There's also the use of assonance, as we see in line 3. Are not trees green? So here there is a repetition of the vowel sound E in trees and green. There's also the use of rhyme, as we see these end rhymes: blow, flow, meet, eat, Harry's berries, a lone stone, lying, dying, explaining and failing. We can also see the use of rhetorical question. Are not the trees green? The earth has green? Does not the wind blow? Fire leap, the river flow? So these are questions that are posed without an answer. They are rhetorical questions. There's also the use of caesura, and we see caesura in a lot of lines. Caesura is a pause or a break in a line, and usually what caesura does is it gives room for the reader to pause and ponder, or it also shows what melancholy does to a person, how it distorts your life. And we see the examples: away melancholy, away with it, let it go, man too hurries, eats, couples, berries. There are a lot of breaks in these lines, and we see also in line 24, in line 26, The examples go all the way from line 28 to 31. There are various pauses. We see a lot of commas used here. Yes, and these are breaks in the line demonstrating what melancholy does to a person. We also see the use of the archaic words carrieth and raiseth, and this shows that the poet wanted to use these words to kind of show that melancholy is a thing that did not start today. It has been something from the past, from the basis, from the foundations of life, and that's why these archaic words have been used. There's also the use of alliteration, the repetition of the initial consonant sounds. So we see it in Good God in line 26, and we also see it in line 16 with the Hey Ho Melancholy creating rhythm in the poem. There's also the use of symbolism, stone of Mans. So here the mention of stone of Mans represents God or the divine, and we see these examples in line 31 and 34. Let us move on to the themes of Away Melancholy by Stevie Smith. We begin with the theme Sadness versus Hope. Smith, right from the title of the poem, gives readers a hint of sorrow and sadness and projects the need to move away from it. In stanza 2, the speaker, using rhetorical questions, delves into the freedom of nature, such as trees and the wind, and the freedom they have. This motivates the speaker to gravitate towards hope using imperatives or action verbs, such as the chorus, away with it, let it go. The speaker further laments about the world's daily struggles using the ant as analogy to show how the world is busy and only the tough survives, or survival of the fittest. Through this example of the life cycle, the speaker shows that the busy world also causes sadness and uses the refrain, Away Melancholy, to show they hope to be free of sadness. Again, the speaker highlights man as the most superior creature and the mastermind behind inventions. The speaker questions if God is the source of the pain and sufferings in the world. The sources of sadness include oppression, diseases, and death. Even though the speaker doesn't say God is the cause, she highlights her desire to go away from sadness. I want us to move on to the theme, the existence of God and man, or humanity and divine. One outstanding theme the poem projects is the source of melancholy. The speaker sees man as a supreme creature and attributes invention to him in line 22 to 26. He of four creatures alone raiseth a stone, calls what he knows of good. And this is what shows that to raise a stone is to create, is to invent, is to build. So the speaker creates the imagery that God is man's creation and alludes positive things to him using the phrase good God. For me, God's existence is before the creation of man, and God is superior to man. It can also be said that Smith suggests melancholy and other vices in the world are part of God's creation and part of man who is created by God. The speaker also questions the creation of tyranny, pox, wars. If God really created this, even though this has no answer, it questions God. If he also created sadness, which is the speaker's problem, which she is aggressive to move away from. In the stanzas 7, 8, and 9, the speaker admits that humans do evil things that bring sadness, such as being beaten, corrupted, dying. But our ultimate desire is to be good and love. The speaker emphasizes love by repeating it. The speaker admonishes all to pay attention to the virtues people hold and not just their incapabilities, as seen in lines 45 to 46. It is his virtue needs explaining, not his failing. I want us to move on to the theme survival of the fittest. Smith captures the competitive, often harsh nature of existence, suggesting that life itself demands resilience and adaptability. One of the most prominent symbols in the poem is the ant, which serves as a metaphor for the relentless drive to survive in a busy and demanding world. Smith refers to the ant as he carried his meat with a determined, almost mechanic quality. This depiction of the ant highlights how creatures, including humans, are driven by an instinct to persist despite difficulties. The ant becomes a stand-in for all living beings who must endure and carry on through life's obstacles. The expression "all things hurry to be eaten" or "to eat" also demonstrates the theme survival of the fittest, where the struggle of man is evident. The repetition of the refrain "away melancholy" throughout the poem reinforces the speaker's desire to reject sadness and rise above the struggles of life. By repeatedly telling melancholy to go away, the speaker is demonstrating a kind of mental resilience, as if to suggest that survival is not only about physical endurance, but also about maintaining hope and pushing away sorrow. The refrain itself is a rhythm that mimics the ongoing struggle for emotional survival. We'd like to look at the likely examination questions. 1. How does Stevie Smith use imagery in the poem "Away Melancholy" to convey the speaker's feelings towards sadness and hope? 2. In what ways does the speaker use nature as a source of inspiration in "Away Melancholy"? 3. Examine the use of imperatives in "Away Melancholy" and discuss how they contribute to the poem's tone and message. 4. Discuss the significance of the ant as a metaphor for the struggles and the survival of the fittest theme in the modern world. 5. Explore the role of God and spirituality in "Away Melancholy". How does the speaker grapple with the idea of divine responsibility for suffering? 6. Discuss the effectiveness of the refrain "Away Melancholy" in the poem. How does this repetition shape the reader's understanding of the speaker's inner conflict? Now this brings us to the end of our discussion of the poem "Away Melancholy". Don't forget to hit the like button, share, comment, subscribe to this channel. Until I come your way again, keep learning and be the best version of yourself.